Hello. We are going to be diving in today on the service strategy of ITIL, or Information Technology Infrastructure Library. This presentation is brought to you by me, Matthew Dubinsky, Lindsay Irwin, Alex Sproul, and Joshua Topacio, or the artist formerly known as Section 2, Group 4, featuring Alex. Here is the overall process of ITIL. We're going to go ahead and just forget the rest of this stuff for now and just focus on service strategy. Let's start by talking about service strategy purpose. First off, let's talk about the purpose and main components that make up service strategy.
Service strategy helps to design, develop, and implement service management. It enables a service provider to consistently outperform competitive alternatives over time and across business cycles, industry disruptions, and changes in leadership. We grouped the aspects of these into the following 5 groups. First, strategy needs to take into consideration what the customer values and how what is being offered meets that customer need. Next, the specific service strategy should be compared to the company's overall strategy. Then, the company should evaluate what resources are available. After that, the company should consider how they currently compare to the competition. What sets you apart from them? How are you planning to compete with them? Lastly, service strategy should consider the overall culture of a company and adjust accordingly before implementation.
There are 4 P's to keep in mind. First is perspective. Consider the direction of the company. What is the company's vision? Second is position. What basis is the provider competing on? Third is plan. What is the plan behind the strategy? And last is pattern, which goes along with how a particular strategy may fit into the company culture.
There are 3 types of service providers. Type 1 exists within an organization for the sole purpose of delivering service to one specific business unit. This type must achieve functional excellence and cost effectiveness for their business unit, as they specialize to serve a relatively narrow set of business needs. Type 2 services multiple business units in the same organization. Type 2 service providers have more autonomy in making their own internal strategies, decisions, and organizational structure that will serve business demands in the most efficient way. Type 3 operates as an external service provider which serves multiple external customers. They provide generic services, so the companies that use them have to find their own way in aligning those services with business needs.
Next, onto the main components that make up the service strategy. There are 5 main processes that are highlighted within this section of ITIL. The 5 processes are introduced here, followed by a brief overview of each one. Number 1, strategy management for information technology services. This process focuses on potential markets that a company can dive into in order to better render service to its customers. A strategy is then created on how to enter the newfound market, with this strategy being implemented. Number 2, service portfolio management. Think of Ernie's class. This is what happens here. In this process, any new or existing service is analyzed to see if it adds value to the company or not. This area breaks down the proposed return on investment on new services. Number 3, financial management for information technology services. You manage financials here. That's pretty much what happens. Nothing to dive too deep in here. Does your information technology give a good return? Yes or no? Number 4, demand management. What do your customers want? Does the company have enough inventory and manpower to meet those demands? This is all planned out in this process. Number 5, business relationship management. Basically, the name says it all. In this area, the process focuses on how to keep and maintain, as well as grow, positive relationships with your customers. Also, in the business relationship management area, what the potential customer's current needs are and services that can fit those needs are thought of and developed here.
Financial management covers the function and processes responsible for managing an IT service provider's budgeting, accounting, and charging requirements. Its main goal is service valuation, or defining the value of the services offered to clients by taking into account all costs. In the financial management process, accounting, budgeting, and charging all lead to the same end: recovering expenses, and generating profit for the IT services-oriented organization. It provides the business and IT with the following in financial terms. First, the value of IT services. Second, the value of the assets underlying the provisioning of those services. And third, the qualification of operational forecasting. The benefits of implementing financial management include creating a comprehensive inventory of all hardware, software, and assets, cultivating a stronger understanding of which assets the organization needs to function, improved efficiency, and lower cost.
Demand management tries to influence customer demand for services and the provision of capacity to meet these demands. At a strategic level, this involves analysis of patterns of business activity and user profiles. Constantly Googling iPhone X's Max stores cookies that cause ads for the newest iPhone to constantly pop up on web pages that have nothing to do with iPhones. Big Brother is always watching. At the tactical level, it can involve use of discounted pricing to encourage customers to use IT services at less busy times.
Service portfolio management is an ongoing process involving the management of a service across its entire lifecycle. The service portfolio management process includes the four following sections: define, analyze, approve, and charter. Let's go into a bit more detail for each section and talk about some of the goals associated with them. Within define is managing inventory services, ensuring business cases, and validating portfolio data. Every service planned and operated by the provider is documented. Every new service runs through a set of standardized activities and procedures to ensure that essential management relevant information for service delivery and support are documented and provided to the relevant management processes. Within analyze is maximizing portfolio value and aligning, prioritizing, and balancing supply and demand. Every service and their design packages are reviewed at regular intervals. Every service is reviewed within the continual service improvement process. Within approve is finalizing the proposed portfolio and authorizing services and resources. Within charter is communicating decisions, allocating resources, and chartering services. Through the service portfolio, an information base for a service catalog is provided.
Gee, all this talk about strategy is making me hungry. So why don't we have some roles? Some key roles and responsibilities. The Service Strategy publication defines some specific roles and responsibilities associated with the execution of a successful service strategy, including a business relationship manager. Business relationship managers establish a strong business relationship with the customer by understanding the customer's business and their customer outcomes. These managers work closely with the product managers to negotiate productive capacity on behalf of customers. Product managers take responsibility for developing and managing services across the lifecycle and have responsibilities for productive capacity, service pipeline, and the services, solutions, and packages that are presented in the service catalogs. Chief sourcing officers are the main champions of the sourcing strategy within the organization, responsible for leading and directing the sourcing office and development of the sourcing strategy in close conjunction with the CIO.
Let's look at an example. Imagine you work at a company known as Jedi Incorporated. As an employee, you are specially trained in combat and a special software called the Force. You are currently considering new ways to gain support of citizens during a time torn by war between the Republic and the Separatists. First, let's look at the initial 5 groupings we discussed within service strategy. The Jedi customer in this circumstance are the citizens of the Republic. The company strategy of Jedi Incorporated is to fight against the dark side and ultimately bring balance to the Force. The resources available are the Force, skills in combat, and a limited number of individuals that are trained on this software and sensitive to this software. The competition is largely the dark side, along with other services such as drones, clones, etc. And the company culture is a code of conduct that all are required to live by, known as the Jedi Code. Next, let's look at the 4 P's of strategy. The perspective matches up with the overall company strategy and goals to bring balance to the Force. Position is the light version of the software that the company specializes in. Our plan for execution of this strategy is to reach out to the citizens of the Republic and provide them with the protection many of them crave. Last, the pattern is the code of conduct we all have agreed to live as Jedi employees. Another aspect of our strategy is our need to consider what service provider type we want to execute. Type 1 would be like a Jedi Knight or Jedi employee providing assistance to a master on the Jedi Council or the Jedi Board by taking a seat. Type 2 would be, as a Jedi Knight, you teach a course on an update to the Force, both to the Board, the Jedi Council, and the younglings attending the Jedi Temple. And Type 3 would be updating other systems throughout the Republic with the Force update. We are choosing to go with Type 3 in hopes to expand the Force to the entire Republic. While Jedi Inc. is a non-profit organization, we still need to consider our limited resources. Provided with sufficient funds, this limited resources refer to strict limits on users of the Force and the limited number of individuals currently trained on it. However, many individuals within the Republic would consider the value of security that comes with having access to the Force as priceless. We also have to take into account the value of having help from a Jedi Padawan, Knight, or Master to operate the software. Lastly, consider the future value of these things and what the cost will be of maintaining. Our main goal is keeping the Republic safe and to really just maintain the high ground and avoid further death and destruction. For demand management, you need to use your resources to understand the customer. One way to do this is heading to the local cantina and listening to what individuals are talking about. Consider the demand for death sticks, which would ultimately decrease demand for the Force. Evaluate what species and planets are going to be the most vulnerable. I've heard the droid attack on the Wookiees took a major toll, etc. By getting down and talking to individuals, you can have a better understanding of the needs of the citizens of the Republic, and therefore be able to use the Force to meet those needs. As mentioned previously, we need to have plans set in place to manage the entire life cycle of this service. First, define. Manage inventory services. Remember, the company's overall strategy is to bring balance to the Force. That means you cannot and should not eliminate all of the dark side. The amount of Force software available is limited. Consider carefully when picking individuals to share it with. Analyze. Throughout the installation process of the Force, constantly evaluate how effective it works in that area. While the light side of the software can prove helpful, should individuals convert their download into the dark version, it can be a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. It's important that there is constant monitoring for these viruses, and that individual users of the software be trained on it correctly. Approve. Before any installations take place, make sure to have them approved by the board, otherwise known as the Jedi Council. Charter. Communication should be maintained throughout all channels, from installation to implementation to daily use. As mentioned previously in Analyze, it is essential that these pieces be watched carefully.
My name is Dagan Kettles, and I approve this message.